Hello, my name is Scotty Worley, and today I'm going to be talking about the culture of Berlin in preparation for our expansion project into Berlin, Germany over the next 2 years. First, a little bit about myself. My name is Scotty Worley, as I said, and I've been working with the company for 6 years. For 4 of those years, I have been a barista trainer, and for all of them, I have been a barista. Now, a couple of years ago, in 2011, I was given the opportunity to go to Berlin and work for the company in their only store in Germany at the time, the only corporate store, that is. And through that, I have a lot of experience in working with both the people of Berlin and understanding how a Starbucks must operate in order to be successful in Berlin, Germany. Currently, Berlin has 20 stores, and over the course of 2016 and 2017, we plan to build 4 more. And I'll discuss why we want to do that over this presentation. But in order to build stores and to build them successfully, it's important to cover the cultural aspects which affect our business, especially in Berlin and also in Germany as a whole. So I'm going to be discussing the family life, the education, and the social customs of our guests, which will be coming to our stores in Berlin. So the first thing I want to talk about is family. Family in Berlin is much more important, or life is much more family oriented than it is here in the United States. Our primary way of getting family time in the United States is through our commuting. The average commute time in New York to work or to school is 51 minutes, whereas in Berlin it's an average of 23 minutes. Now, primarily this is because in Berlin there are multiple forms of transportation other than a car, whereas in New York, a lot of people, especially in the lower parts of New York, the southern parts of New York, have a much more difficult time operating on the public transit systems than is popular in Berlin. Most families in Berlin only have 1 car, whereas in the United States we average 3 or 4 if we have that many drivers in our family, usually 1 car per 1 driver. And so Berliners aren't spending as much time together commuting as we are here in the United States, but this means that they spend a lot more time together on the weekends and the evenings than we do. So, due to this short commute, we're going to have to make ourselves more accessible to our guests. Here's a map of all the Starbucks locations in New York. Every single red dot on there is a Starbucks store. The average commute, as I mentioned, is 51 minutes, which means that on the way to work, most people are probably going to pass about 15 Starbucks locations, ample opportunities to stop and get a cup. However, this is not as possible in Berlin, partially because we don't have quite as many stores, but also because commute times are much lower, meaning people are going to pass by a lot fewer stores than they would if they were, say, in New York. Now, one cultural thing I did pick up on while in Germany is that you don't go to a Starbucks and order drinks for your entire company. Like this guy over here. He is walking away with 8 Starbucks drinks, and I had someone attempt to do that. They were ordering 6 drinks at my store in Germany, and this is a significant issue. I had the lady right behind her started screaming at her, and the rest of the line behind her was quite angry that she was ordering for more than herself. This is a small cultural aspect, but this has a lot to do with people wanting to spend as little time as possible in waiting in line at stores, and they want to get their product quickly and rapidly so that way they can get back to their families. Another thing about families is business on Sunday. As I mentioned, families like to spend their weekends together more than they do their commute times like we do in the United States. So Sunday in Germany is almost a sacred day. It's family day. It's when people get to sit down with their family members and discuss the events that happened in their week, or the headlines, or most importantly, politics, which I'll get to a little more later. So on Sunday, we need to expect businesses to be closed. Now, while it's going to be our sales team call whether we are open on Sunday, some cafes are open on Sunday in Berlin, and they're frequented. But we need to understand that most of our baristas are not going to want to be working on those days. And one of the reasons that a lot of places are closed on Sunday in the United States is because of religious reasons. Now, while religion used to be a significant aspect of life in Berlin, as you can see here, 60% of people that live in Berlin identify as non-religious. Following right after that, 19% identify as Presbyterian, and of those 19%, not displayed on this chart, of those 19%, about 75% of them don't attend church regularly, or not church, but services rather. So we can expect our population to not be attending services, but this also means that they don't want to be really anywhere on Sunday. They want to be with their families, walking around the city, visiting the parks, which are pretty much every block. I remember at my store in Berlin on Sunday, we only had 3 people who were capable of working for all of the day or any of the day. So we had 3 people running the store on Sundays, which was okay because not that many people came on Sundays, but it was a huge issue if one of us couldn't work. So that's something we're going to have to address later as we're planning these stores. Another thing that is prominent in Germany is discussion of politics. Now, while politics in the United States, discussing it with random people, is considered taboo, we in Germany found that we were frequently asked about our political opinions, even while we're working. I was on bar one time and someone came up and they asked me of my opinion of Angela Merkel, who is the Prime Minister of Germany at the time. And I had to look to my supervisor because I wasn't sure if I could answer that question or not. And then we had to discuss that it is actually okay to discuss politics at the local, state, or national level, especially international politics such as EU politics or United States politics with anyone. Now, this is largely due to the fact that 90% of the population has a equivalent of a bachelor's degree in Germany. So, for example, your baristas, when we are hiring them, we're going to need to know who Angela Merkel is. She's the Prime Minister of Germany. We're going to need to know her political party, the CDU, the Christian Democrats Union. It's not what it is in German, but that's what it is in English. We're going to need to know that kind of stuff in order to have basic conversations with our guests, in order to build loyalty and trust. So I want to make a quick note about language in Germany. There are 2 pronouns, as you can see, Z and Z. One is capitalized, one is not. They mean very different things. They both refer to people, but one is formal and one is informal. Because our audience is going to be so educated and so well versed in wanting to talk about politics, we're going to need to talk to them in the formal form. So the quickest way to lose a guest is going to be to not to refer to them by the formal pronoun. One of the most prominent ways we're going to be successful in Germany is to develop Starbucks as a third space. For those of you who are unaware, Starbucks started the third space campaign at the beginning of this year. We want to establish after home and after work that Starbucks is in fact the third place that someone is going to visit. They want to have a place to sit and enjoy the perfect drink in a relaxing environment. That's our goal. So, our mission statement: to inspire and nurture the human spirit, one person, one cup, and one neighborhood at a time. How are we going to accomplish this in Germany? First, we need to focus on the one person. Germans like to read newspapers. As I mentioned, they're very politically prone and they like to talk to basically anyone around them when they're in that kind of environment. Our highly educated populace means that we're going to have a high student population also. That's one of our highest demographics in the United States, and it's also going to be one of our highest demographics in Germany, simply because so many people are going to college. They get it for free there, but we're not going to talk about that. Now, 10% of the population in Berlin is currently in school. This is a very significant aspect of our business, and it's going to be a very significant aspect of how we need to gear our stores in order to reach our guests. We also need to focus on one neighborhood at a time. With our short commute times, this is really going to affect our business, and so we're going to need to have Starbucks on as many corners as possible. We need to be able to focus on a small business mentality. Germans really appreciate freshness because on every corner there's a deli, there's a bakery, there's a fruit stand, and there's a coffee shop. And I mean that almost quite literally. When I walked out of my home, on the way to my store, I passed probably 2 delis, 2 bakeries, 2 fruit stands, sometimes even more. They pop up every now and again. This means that Germans are keen on freshness. This means our coffee is going to have to be very high quality and very fresh all of the time. None of that leaving the coffee on the burner for an hour, sometimes like some of our less busy stores do in the United States. In Germany, there is no such thing as a one-stop shop. You're not going to be able to go to a Walmart and get everything you need for 2 weeks. You're more frequently going to stop at these stores, such as delis, bakeries, and fruit stands. I remember stopping every single day at least one of them to get food for today and also for tomorrow. This local kind of attitude builds a strict loyalty in guests. So more often than not, we're going to have regulars rather than visitors. Which is both a good and a bad thing for us. In building new stores, it's bad because very few people are going to be loyal to us in the very beginning. It's going to be hard to attract business. But that's up to our finance team on how to do that. But we've been incorporating We Proudly Brew stores all over Berlin to introduce people to our coffee, so that way they want to come to Starbucks when they finally see one appear in their neighborhood. So one of the ways that we're going to succeed is to fit the need of our audience. Starbucks needs to be a place to be with family, it needs to be able to interact with our communities, and we need to have high quality, fresh coffee all of the time. The second way we're going to succeed is to fit our demographic. We need to hire highly educated, knowledgeable baristas who are able to discuss with our guests the politics and headlines of the day. We're going to need to gear our stores to families and students, so that way we can fit the majority of the population of Berlin with our stores. And most importantly, for people of Berlin, we need to make Starbucks feel local. Our coffee needs to be fresh. People need to be able to interact with our coffee on a daily basis. And this is what's going to help us to inspire and nurture the human spirit, one person, one cup, and one neighborhood at a time. Thank you.